is for Allah, nothing but Allah. Ba is the beginning of Bismillah. Ta is for taqwa, bewaring of Allah. And Tha is for thawab, a reward. Ja is for Jannah, the garden of paradise. Ha is for Hajj, the blessed pilgrimage. Kha is for Khatam, the seal of the prophethood given to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala al-mab'uthi rahmatan lil alameen. Nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man ihtada bihadiyih wa istanna bi sunnatihi ila yawmiddin. Amma ba'd. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new episode of Ask Zad, coming to you from Zad Studios in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. I'll be receiving your phone calls, if any. You will find the numbers displayed at the bottom of the screen, inshallah. If you have any question, feel free to call. Meanwhile, we have a number of questions as usual from the emails. Amatullah says, is it permissible to use poppy seeds in our food? Now, if you go back and research it, you'll find that poppy seed itself is not intoxicant. Though once it is planted and it grows and the fruit of it, they get from it opium, and it can be chemically processed to produce heroin and other drugs. So the scholars say poppy seeds itself, the seed itself, is not intoxicant. People can consume it and use it in their food without any problem. And we always put the disclaimer, and that is, if consumed in large quantities, would result in intoxication, hallucination, or some of such effects. In this case, it becomes haram. But due to the fact that people have been using it and they do not consider it to affect them negatively with the grace of Allah, in this case, it is permissible to be used. A sister asks, and she says, my husband is addicted to porn. He does not give me my rights. I caught him red-handed. He apologized, but still he never gives it up, and also cheats on me with other women. What should I do? There are two ways of dealing with this scenario. And unfortunately, the rate is growing among men who are becoming addicted to watching pornography. And this is attributed to a number of factors. The greatest among them all is the lack of fear of Allah. See, knowledge is associated with fear of Allah, real knowledge. I could be possessing a PhD in Sharia law or in tafsir. I could be one of the greatest da'is around. Yet, this does not mean that I am knowledgeable of Allah, because I have to walk the talk, in the sense that if my knowledge does not result in me fearing Allah truly when I'm at public and when I'm on my own, then my knowledge is not genuine and it's not authentic. The majority of people don't have and possess this knowledge of Allah that results in them fearing Allah Azza wa Jal when they are alone. And this is why we find a lot of men and also women who do not have anything to repel them and to stop them from falling into sin. If they don't have the fear of Allah Azza wa Jal, then the sky is the limit. And this is why your husband is falling in such a sin. So in order to create a solution, we need to solve the core of the problem, which is being far away from Allah. So if you look into scrutinizing your husband thoroughly, you would find that probably he doesn't pray in the masjid, or he prays on and off, that he does not observe the voluntary prayers, he does not fast voluntary, he does not do a lot of good deeds. And probably there are a number of other sins that he's involved in. Unfortunately, you fail to detect these because they're not usually related to you. What's related to you is his addiction to pornography. Whether he's good or bad with his parents, this is his problem. You don't ask about this. Whether he does pray in the masjid or not, this is his personal preference. It's between him and Allah. But when it comes to pornography, and it's something that is related to your own honor and dignity, then you ask about it. Secondly or thirdly, I've lost count. Who's counting, by the way? Thirdly, you have to look into what drives him to watching pornography. And a lot of the sisters ask, shall I divorce him? Shall I leave him? Shall I do this and that? And I always say, this is not the solution. Addiction to pornography is a problem, but it is not a major problem like fornication or committing adultery. However, in my opinion, if you do your job as a wife and truly exhaust him in bed through your own ways of making it lucrative and seductive, but really exhausting him in bed, he will not think of watching any of this filth again. The moment he opens it, he says, ugh, it's nothing to watch. I'm satisfied, I'm fulfilled sexually. But when he is in dire need and you're always having a headache and you're always having problems, then this is problematic. Aziza from Qatar.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
The first question is it necessary for one to touch the skin of the forehead for making sujood, like as it is a part of the body part that we have to touch on the ground?
Which part?
Forehead.
So you're asking, is it necessary to put my forehead on the ground?
I mean the skin. Is it if let's say my example, my niqab is covering my forehead, is it necessary to touch the skin?
Okay.
And also my second question, what is the guideline or the ruling as a wife from seeking permission from a husband to leave the house?
Okay, I will answer your question, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam wa barakatuh. We have Mustafa from India. I think we've lost Mustafa. I hope he calls again, inshallah. So Aziza from Qatar says, when a woman wears a niqab, and let us not talk about women. Let me talk about myself. I've just prayed Maghrib in the congregation, and you can see by the way I'm dressed. When I prostrate, my forehead is covered by the thing I'm wearing. So is this permissible? The answer is yes. There is no problem because the barrier between the ground and my forehead is very thin. Unlike if I'm wearing these big turbans like our brothers from Sudan, that they keep on rolling and rolling and rolling, and it's become huge. When you prostrate, you actually do not prostrate because the clearance between the ground and your forehead is like a foot or less. No, this is too much. But if it's something like this, if something like the hijab the sister is wearing, then there is no problem in that, inshallah. Do we have Mustafa on the line?
Yes, Mustafa. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam wa barakatuh.
Yeah, Sheikh, actually I have some few questions. I was in Guinea like for more than 8 years, so actually I'm living in India. I'm having serious difficulties like regarding my deen, and because within the Islam that I saw in India is quite different, because the way people offer salat after like they used to offer prayers after namaz. But my question is related to, I have two questions. One is regarding if someone non-mahram, like sister or cousin, has an illegal child, like got a son out of marriage, and the son is living with you together. What are the Islamic rules regarding that? Is it permissible in Islam to entertain the son? One, and secondly, where I'm living currently is a little bit far from masjid. But alhamdulillah, every Fajr, like 5 times in a week or 6 times in a week, I used to attend namaz. But when I go to masjid, I could not able to read Quran after salat. But if I pray at home, I used to read Quran after my namaz Fajr. I used to take few minutes to read Quran. But now I'm asking what's your advice regarding that issue? Should I still be going, like I'll be missing the reward of Quran and all?
Mustafa Bhai, your first question, was it about living together illegitimately? I did not get it.
My first question was about like your non-mahram sister, your cousin or your sister itself. If she has a son that she doesn't got in marriage, we face that kind of situation in Africa.
So a mother and her son who is not married living together.
No, she had a son outside marriage.
She got a son out of wedlock.
Yeah, outside wedlock. So then the son is living with you together in the same house. What are the Islamic rules since the son is not illegal?
What about the man? The man is still living with her?
Yeah, the son is still living with like is our family. The son, I'm having one of my sister that she got a son out of marriage, but the son is still living in my father's house. While I was there, we were together with that son. So
I will answer you, inshallah. Abshir. Okay, so Sister Aziz's first question we've answered. Her second question, she says, what is the ruling on the wife leaving the house without the permission of the husband? It is the husband's right that she, that is his wife, does not leave the house without his permission, and that she does not admit in his house anyone without his permission. This is God-given right to the husband. And this is part of running the Muslim family. There has to be an authority, and there has to be someone in power in order to put and set the rules. 99.9% of all Muslim marriages, the husband gives an open permission for his wife. There is love, there is trust, and he tells her, go to any place that I would approve of that. Everybody does this, I do this, everyone I know does this. No one says, no, before you leave, give me a call. Not to my knowledge. There can be certain situations and marriages that this happens. It happens for a reason. We are not here to judge the husband's reasons, whether they're legitimate or not. These are internal affairs of the marriage. And a woman has to take good care of her marriage, has to rectify and see if there are any problems with her husband so that they can, inshallah, fix things up. Mustafa says that there is a sister who had a child, a boy, out of wedlock, and now he is living with his mother in her father's house, and they don't feel comfortable in that. Brother Mustafa, there is nothing wrong at all in the boy living with his mother, because she is his mother, she gave birth. Whether in halal way or haram, this is irrelative. She is still his mother. And her father is the boy's grandfather, and they're all related to him through his mother. The issue would be if the man, the fornicator, is living with your sister till date without marriage. This is the issue. Now this is zina, this is fornication, this is totally prohibited and unaccepted. But a mistake she did in the past, and now Allah knows, maybe she repented, maybe she sought Allah's forgiveness and became righteous and practicing. May Allah gives her hidayah and forgiveness. There's nothing wrong in taking care of this boy because he is her son and you are his uncle and your father is his grandfather. His second question is that he is unable to recite the Quran after Fajr, as it used to be a habit of his. He prays in the masjid, though the masjid is a bit far, but he, alhamdulillah, takes the effort and goes there. First of all, reciting the Quran is not limited to before or after the salah of the prayer. You can recite the Quran 24/7. You have no limitation for that. Now, if you make it as a habit, this is up to you. But if now you're unable to finish your portion, your daily portion of the Quran, due to work or due to that Fajr is late and you have to leave the masjid afterwards immediately for work, in this case, you have to reschedule your daily portion. Either you pray it in Tahajjud, either you pray it after Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib and Isha or before. Either you go to the masjid early before the adhan, and once the adhan is given, from the adhan time till the iqamah time, there is about 10 to 15, in some cases 20 minutes, which is sufficient for you to finish the Quran once every week, if you keep on reading it throughout this period. So inshallah, you have to reschedule that. An anonymous brother sends us that in India and Pakistan, people make these make-believe relationships, like she's my sister or my mother, when in reality they're not even mahram to each other or not related. So they treat them exactly like real brothers and sisters and no hijab and free mixing, etc. What does Islam say about such relationships? These are all fabrications and made up lies. I get a lot of questions from sisters saying that I was on the phone with a brother in another country and he said, let us get married in front of Allah. So he said, I marry you on the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Say 3 times, I accept, I accept, I accept. Khalas, now we're married. What kind of nonsense is this? Are you playing games with Allah's religion? Marriage has pillars, has conditions, has a process that must be followed, otherwise there's no marriage. This is not a marriage, this is playing around children's games. Likewise, this brother is telling me that, for example, I have a neighbor and I like this neighbor, he's a good friend of mine, but we have a problem with mixing. So I cannot see his wife and daughters and they can see my wife and daughters. So what to do? I go to his wife and I say, you're my sister from now on. And I tell his daughters, you're my daughters. And boom, by this, they become mahram to me and I become mahram to them. We free mix, we deal like real siblings and real fathers, etc. This is ridiculous. This is preposterous and has no value, none whatsoever. So it's sinful, it is still haram and prohibited. There is another issue. If this relationship, they had the conviction that it is not haram anymore, this can be an act of apostasy. When they believe that they have the ability, they have the authority to make what is haram halal, now this is apostasy. It's not sinful anymore. It's not that, listen, I cannot mix with your wife and daughters, it's haram, but I'll do it anyhow. Why? I know it's haram, I'm sinful, Allah will punish me. This is different than someone says, now it's not haram anymore. This person has changed the religion of Allah and has fallen into an act of apostasy. May Allah Azza wa Jal have mercy on us all. Amina says, some people say that one should not apply henna on hair during menses, but should apply it after ghusl. Otherwise, she'll not be considered purified even after the ghusl, until the henna color is on her hair. Is it true in Islam or just a myth made by people? This has no relationship to Islam. The question is, when a woman is in the state of menstruation, we know that she cannot pray, she cannot fast, until she is pure from her menses, takes a major ritual bath, which is known as ghusl, and then she can pray. So the question is, if she has on her body something that forms a layer that prevents the water from reaching the skin, the scalp, etc., then the ghusl is invalid. So the allegation here is that when a woman applies henna or mehendi on her hair, which is sort of a dye, to dye her hair, after she removes the residue and there's only the color, they say that if she performs ghusl, she is still in the state of impurity because the water was prevented from reaching her scalp and hair. And this is baseless. Henna is a color, it's not a layer. So real henna, if you have henna on your hand for women, after they remove and wash the residue, only the color remains. In a couple of weeks' time, the color fades. It's not a layer that you can peel off. Because if it's a layer that can be peeled off, then this does not allow water to reach your skin and you cannot perform wudu, let alone ghusl or anything that is more than that. So henna is just a color. A woman in her menses or a woman in her purity can perform, apply henna and can perform ghusl afterwards without any problem, and Allah knows best. We have a short break. Stay tuned, and inshallah, we'll be right back.
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Allahi wa barakatuh. Today we're going to talk about the book Interactions of the Greatest Leader. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam raised their moral by mentioning the virtues in the hereafter. Abdullah bin Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu anhu reported that the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Do you know who will be the first to enter paradise among Allah's creations?" They said, "Allah and His Messenger knows best." He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "The first that will enter paradise among Allah's creation are the poor muhajirin that are used to close the gaps that are feared for in the stronghold, and they are the ones that protect against evil things. One of them will die with his need in his chest, but he is unable to fulfill it. Allah the Almighty will say to whomever He wishes among His angels, go to them and greet them. The angels will say, we are the residents of your heavens and the best of your creation. Do you order us to go to them and greet them? Allah will say, they were slaves that worshipped me and did not associate anything with me unworthy. They were used to close the gaps that were feared, and they were used to do away with anything evil. One of them will die and with his need in his chest, but cannot find any way to fulfill it. So the angels go to them at that and will enter on them from every door, saying, peace be on you for your patience, and excellent is the final abode. Reported by Ahmad. Al-Albani ruled it authentic in his book, At-Ta'liqat al
Vital knowledge, clear explanations, and simplified answers about the rules of Islam to enable English-speaking Muslims to understand Islam properly and implement it correctly. Join Sheikh A'Sim Alhakeem on Ask Zad, coming live to you on Zad TV at the following times. Our media partner, Huda TV.
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. The numbers are displayed at the bottom of the screen as usual if you care to call. Sana asks, is it permissible for girls to keep their head uncovered in home? This is a common question we get, especially from the subcontinent. They have this belief that a woman cannot sit in her home without wearing hijab on her head, though there's no one inside the home. And this is totally baseless. Not only that, they say if the adhan is being called, you have to cover your hair. If you want to recite the Quran, you have to cover your hair. If you want to go to the bathroom to perform wudu, you have to cover your hair. And all of this is nonsense. This is baseless. Any scholar who recommends this and says, oh, it's good, he is not a scholar, he has no knowledge. And this is why we do these programs. This is why we give lectures. This is why we would like to revive Islam truly and purely from the authentic sources, from the Quran, from the Sunnah, according to the understanding of the three favored and blessed generations of all times. Now, if I go to Pakistan, if I go to Egypt, if I go to Morocco, if I go to the US, if I go to Indonesia, if I go to any Muslim country or see a Muslim community, I'll find a lot of innovations. People worshiping Allah differently to one another. Is this Islam? Says, why is your Islam better than mine? I'm not saying it's better. We say that Allah has revealed the Quran in Arabic for the Muslims to read. Allah has revealed the Sunnah and preserved it for the Muslims through the science of Hadith, so that it explains the Quran thoroughly without any doubt to people. So why are you leaving the Quran and the Sunnah behind and following Tom, Dick, and Harry? Where in the Quran or in the Sunnah that a woman is burdened by wearing hijab, covering her hair, to eat or to recite the Quran, or when the adhan is called? This is nonsense. Where in the Quran it says that she has to cover or wear something on her head in front of her father, brother, or uncle? This has no relation to Islam. This is why we urge our brothers and sisters, come back to the original Quran and Sunnah. Come back to the original Islam. Don't go to Tom, Dick, and Harry. Don't go to these called scholars who take your money and become rich. And all what they know is, Simon says, do this. And you blindly follow them. Islam is a religion of obedience to Allah and to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's a logical religion, not logical without complying and implementing Quran and Sunnah. No, it goes side by side. And whenever there is a conflict, we go with the Quran and Sunnah. But almost 99.9%, it's always according to everyone's logic. It's a logical religion with the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal. So this is nonsense. Do not listen to anyone that tells you as a woman you have to cover your head when the adhan is being called. Why? Show me something from the Quran, from the Sunnah, or from the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, recommending this, and you will not find such a thing. Muhammad says, I attended Friday Salat today, and the Imam told us that it is prohibited for a man to be in the same room when his wife is in labor, when she is giving birth to their baby. It is prohibited for him to be in the same room or other women with him as well. Again, where did you get this idea, Mr. Einstein? People cannot speak out of their own whims and desires in Islam, saying halal and saying haram. Allah said that this is blatant lie that you say to what you wish, halal and haram. This is not true. A man can be present with his wife, holding her hand if he wishes, giving her moral support when she is giving birth. This is not an issue at all, and it's not prohibited. Islam from Egypt.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu wa barakatuh.
My cousin has been died 3 days ago in an accident of train. The train has hit him. Can we consider him a martyr, shaheed, inshallah?
So the train went over railed or what? Or crashed?
The train hit him.
Is what?
The train hit him, choked him.
Ah, it hit him. Okay. I will answer you, inshallah.
Inshallah.
So, brother, Islam is talking about a person, a friend, a brother, a relative who was hit by a train and he died instantly. So, is this considered to be martyrdom? In the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ told us that the martyrs, other than those who die on the battlefield with the enemies of Islam, are 7. And among them, the Prophet said, is a person who dies under a falling building, that the roof collapses on his head. So such a person is a martyr, a person who dies in a fire while drowning, a person who dies in stomach illness, disease such as cancer or the likes, etc. Therefore, we cannot say that your friend or brother or relative who was hit by a train is a martyr, but we hope, inshallah, that he would be in the same category as those who have a collapsed building over their heads, because there is a resemblance, but we cannot be sure. All what we can be is hopeful that Allah's forgiveness and mercy would surround him, and that Allah Azza wa Jal would forgive his sins by that accident, and Allah knows best. Isha says there's a hadith that describes the Prophet ﷺ cupping his hands, blowing in them, reciting the last 3 surahs of the Quran and wiping over his body. It says he did this 3 times. Would you please demonstrate? First of all, that's a good question, because people need to understand. The sunnah of wiping your body after recitation has only 2 situations. One, it's a daily process. Every time you go to bed, the Prophet ﷺ, whenever he went to bed, he used to cup his hands like this. Then, before going to sleep, then he blows in his hand like this. And then he recites in his cupped hands, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, and wipes all what he can from his body. Then he cups his hands again, blows in his hands, and recites قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ قُلْ الْفَلَقِ قُلْ النَّاسِ, and repeats wiping. The 3rd time he does the same. So this is situation number 1. Situation number 2 is when he used to feel sick or something is painful on his body or in his body. Then he used to cup his hands. He used to recite, not blow. He used to recite the ruqyah. And the ruqya is not limited to قل هو الله أحد قل أعوذ برب الفلق قل رب الناس. You can add to that Al-Fatiha, you can add to that Ayat Al-Kursi, you can add to that any ayahs that are related to your illness. And then he blows in his palms, in his hands, and then he wipes over the area that is affected, and he wants Allah to cure him. These are the only two situations that the Prophet used to wipe his body with. Now what we see in masjid, people wiping their whole bodies after salah, this is an innovation, a clear innovation. And also it is not part of the sunnah what the people do, dua, then wipe their faces after salah. Again, this is not part of the sunnah, and some scholars even went further to say that this is a clear innovation. So I hope this makes sense to you. Before going to bed, you blow, then you recite Qul al-Ikhlas, al-Falaq, al-Nas, and you wipe, then you repeat doing that, and you wipe, then you repeat doing that. You do not recite Qul huwallahu ahad 3 times and wipe, then Qul a'udhu bil falaq 3 times and wipe. No, this is wrong. You recite a set of these 3 surahs and then wipe, another set and a third set. I hope this answers your question. Muhammad says, I have a bad habit of using tobacco. So Brother Muhammad is addicted to tobacco, whether chewing tobacco, cigarettes, a pipe, any kind of these means of using tobacco. And he says that I quit for a couple of days and I go back. So is there any way that you can show me a dhikr, dua, etc. to quit? Akhi, this is something that you have to have a strong will to quit. Kicking the habit cannot be without any conviction. Because if you smoke and all of a sudden you feel that, this is bad, I'm going to quit. Couple of days down the line, there is nothing preventing you from going back. And especially when it is associated with things that you love. So a lot of the smokers, their best smoke is after a big meal, a fat, juicy meal. They enjoy smoking. Or some would like to smoke with the morning coffee. And all of this is bad for you. I don't know of any cardiologist or any heart surgeon that would say it's okay to smoke a cigarette or 2 per day. They all agree that this is the major cause of heart diseases nowadays. And it is not even nice, neither the smell nor the feeling of it. It's not even natural. See, you can get a child of 7 or 9 years of age, give him a cigarette, and let him inhale. What will happen? He will cough, his eyes would go red, probably he would vomit on the spot, if not faint. Yet people, this is the same reaction that people get when they start to smoke their first cigarette. But subhanallah, their nature changes. Shaitan, Satan, manages to change their nature totally until they become addicted to it and enjoy it and feel that life is beautiful when doing it. So you have to have the initiation from your own self. It has to come within by believing that this is, first of all, haram, that it is harmful, that if the Prophet ﷺ prohibited Muslims from entering the masjid if they ate something that is beneficial for them, like garlic and onions, he prevented them from entering the masjid because of the odor, of the smell. What about cigarettes or cigars? It's even worse. So you have to come up with that. You have to have a strong will, and you have to man up. Make a lot of dua in your sujood. Oh Allah, purify me. Cut all the means. So tell the people in your house, whenever you see a pack of cigarette, throw it away. A lighter, throw it away. Break it. Don't even come back to me. Let them help you. And inshallah, you will kick the habit. Anisha says, my husband doesn't give me time. He's always outside with his friends while I sit home catering to the kids. Every time this discussion comes up, we end up fighting. What should I do? Well, Anisha, I cannot answer you. I have to listen to your husband, because in any dispute, there are two sides, two parties, and each one has his own side of the story. I listen to you, I feel you, and I say that your husband, if he, as you had described, has to be hanged. But when I listen to him, I say that you should be standing in front of a firing squad. And when you both sit in front of me, then the truth is revealed. And I can tell that 50% of what you had said was a lie, and the same goes for him. You say that he's always with his friends, and if I ask him, he says, whenever I work 10 to 12 hours a day and I'm tired, I'm fed up of work, I need to relax. If I go home, all what I hear is nagging. I'm fed up. Your mother called and she picked a fight with me. Your kid did this. Your sister said something and she did not invite me. All what I hear is nagging. You never give us quality time, take us out, we need this, we need that. So, in order to relax, the moment I go back home, I decide to go to my friends, where we hang out and we chill. We just, play PlayStation or whatever. We do anything that is time consuming and then go back home and sleep. So probably, it as they say, it takes two to tango. Maybe you are a part of the problem. Now, I'm not blaming you. Don't say that, oh, I'm the victim and now I'm being accused of causing this. No, not that at all. I don't know your husband and I don't know you, but I'm giving you an advice. And if your husband comes and complains to me, I'm going to give him the same advice by saying that you don't fear Allah, you should spend quality time with your wife, you should appreciate that she is sitting the whole day between four walls, catering for your kids and children, cooking and cleaning and ironing and washing. But it's not appropriate that I tell you this. For you, I tell you that it is your responsibility to take care of your husband, to give him a safe haven to relax in, to feel that he is home so that he's energized to go the following day to earn the food that you need on the table. Now, as I said, you have to learn how to communicate. If this causes to, whenever you discuss this with your husband, to have a fight and to increase the level of tension in the house, this means that you have a problem. You've got to get this fixed, either by sitting with him and communicating without pointing fingers, because usually when you want to sit with your spouse to communicate, and the moment you open your mouth and hear something negative, you say, but you did this and you did that, and you said 5 days ago so and so, and you keep on bringing the dirty laundry, and this is not positive. Therefore, you have to look for a way to communicate. If not possible, go both of you and sit with a Muslim marriage counselor who would listen to both of you and try to give you a solid advice, inshallah. Shihab from England.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salamullah.
I wanted to ask you if it Dawa compulsory?
Is what?
Dawa.
Is Dawa compulsory?
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions, Shihab?
No, just this one.
Okay, I will answer inshallah. Shihab's question is very generic. Is Dawa compulsory? What is the meaning of Dawa? Dawa is calling people to Islam. So is it compulsory for me when I'm walking down the Champs-Élysées, or if I'm working in Regent Park or whatever, when whomever I see, I stop and give them leaflets and accept Islam? Allah would put you in hell if you don't. If you accept Islam, you will get so many wives. If you get Islam, Allah Azza wa Jalla will make your husband so and so. Is this compulsory upon me? The answer is no. But Dawa is a far broader term. What I'm doing now is Dawa. If I go to the gym and work out and I see someone and we just talk casually, I would probably put a word here or there that highlights the beauty of Islam. If I take a cab to take me from point A to point B and he's non-Muslim, I would use anything to just highlight that the beauty of my religion. Once I was traveling in some country and I was with an associate who's an Arab, and the driver was not an Arab. So we were talking about something, and then I stopped him and I said to the driver, excuse me, we are talking about so and so, but we are using Arabic. So do you permit us to continue? And the driver was shocked. Said, of course, why are you asking me? I said, because in our religion, it is prohibited for two to speak in seclusion while the third is there with them. They have to either join him in or take his permission. This is what the Prophet of Islam taught us. So the guy was impressed. By this is da'wah. Being truthful, being kind, being brave, being generous, this is da'wah. Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ. There is no one better in rhetoric than he who calls others to Allah, does righteous deeds, and proclaims, I am among the Muslims. You're proclaiming that being a Muslim and doing righteous deeds, never lying, never cheating, never doing something negative, this is the best form of da'wah. Not only limited to a lecture or a TV program or a leaflet that you give, street da'wah, etc. These are all signs, but not the actual da'wah. And I hope this answers your question. A sister says, I am infertile for 5 years. According to my country's law, I was eligible for free IVF. Now, 3 of our embryos, by the grace of Allah, are frozen. So she says, if I use one of these embryos and I get pregnant, must I dispose of these other 2? Or can I keep them frozen for future use? There's no problem to keep them for future use, providing that the institute or the medical center that it is being kept in is trustworthy and they take care of it, inshallah. Tayyiba says, what about doing tasbih of inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un to find missing things? This is not part of the sunnah. So if I lost my pen, I keep on saying inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, and I try to look for it while repeating it. This is not part of the sunnah. Fadia says, is it permissible for a Muslim man to do aqiqah for all of his 7 kids once, that is 7 sheep in total, and cook the meat to be served at his brother's wedding dinner? There's no problem in doing that. He was not following the sunnah by postponing and delaying the aqiqah. It should have been on the 7th day rather than on the 7th year or 10 years later. But if he wants to slaughter the aqiqah for all of his children in total of 7, and this coincides with his brother's wedding, there's no problem in using the 7 sheep to feed the guests, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. This is all the time we have for today's program. Next week, we will not be having a live session, as I will be, inshallah, in Kuala Lumpur for Al-Adab Al-Mufrad, and I hope to see you there, inshallah. But the week after, we will resume our live shows on Ask Zad. So until that time, I leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
A is for Allah, nothing but Allah. Ba is the beginning of Bismillah. Ta is for taqwa, bewaring of Allah. And Tha is for thawab, a reward. Ja is for Jannah, the garden of paradise. Ha is for Hajj, the blessed pilgrimage. Kha is for Khatam, the seal of the prophethood given to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.